Okay, right. Welcome everyone. Thanks for coming today. I have to say this is a presentation I've been quite looking forward to because when you start a new business and you're working on your own, it can be very lonely and difficult. So it's nice you've come today and to listen to me. Just a brief word about who I am. I'm a chartered governance professional. I qualified in 2004 as a chartered governance at the Chartered Governance Institute, and I was elected a fellow in 2017. I was recently president of the Isle of Man Chartered Governance Institute. I spent most of my career in the corporate, trust and corporate sector, and from there I moved to the Law Society, where I spent 6 years before I set up my own company. So I'm at the early stages of my company development, so I'm part of this journey that we're going to be talking about today. So we're here today to talk about good governance and positive well-being. Before we start, I just want to make sure that I target the presentation for you guys. So I know a couple of you, but what sort of stage are your journeys and what companies you're involved with? Sort of.
I work for a corporate still. I work for Dula, a shipping company. I look after the international offices for things like that.
Right, okay, so I'll bear in mind then. A lot of this is geared for small businesses, but as a manager or a director, you're under so much pressure, and a lot of this will affect you as well. So, but I'll try and bear that in mind as I go along. Anyone else want to volunteer?
I've got my third company now, third service company. So just working as a contractor, predominantly in software development, and also making my own little apps and that type of thing.
Brilliant.
Yeah, one English, one Northern Irish, one Isle of Man, 3 different sets of accountants. I would say accountants are a pain in the ass to deal with. Apart from the present one, he's wonderful.
Right. I do actually talk about consultants here as well, so that's good. And how many are in your organisation now? Just yourself.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Brilliant. Anyone else?
So we're a brand and marketing partner. There's 8 of us now. We work predominantly with TCSPs, law firms, small banks, and essentially manage their brand and marketing function.
Brilliant. So you're sort of starting the increase in your organisation.
Yeah,
Great.
It's probably a good time to start thinking more about governance.
Yeah, and I mean, from your perspective, I guess you've got the added issues of AI and that sort of encroaching, and then there'll be demands from the TCSPs or whoever else to to impinge on the services that you're providing. So you'll have a lot of threats there as well. So anyone else want to volunteer before we get?
Yeah, I moved here about almost a year ago. I've run for the last 20 years. I've run my own consultancy, similar, just a one-man band kind of thing.
Brilliant.
Doing technical stuff, software development. These days, I tend to focus more on fractional CTO and technical leadership type consultancy.
Right.
But I've also set up a startup with a colleague, so it's just the 2 of us, and we're just trying to get that figured out.
Oh, right. Oh, very good. So as well as all the ordinary problems you've got with startups, you've got a new life on the island to deal with and learning.
No, that's the easy part.
Well, that's good, and hopefully you enjoy it here.
That was what enabled me to do it.
Oh, excellent. Oh, very good.
No, that's easy. That's all.
Right.
We can do a start. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So I'll try and bear that in mind. Is anyone here from a charity, by the way, before we? Because no, right. I haven't specifically mentioned charities, but I can incorporate the slides into that. Okay. I'll try and bear that in mind as we talk through the slides. So the first thing I want to mention is the basics. When you're starting up from scratch, it is ideal to get the basics right. So if we look at the governance, the definition of governance, it's the system of rules and practices and processes by which an organisation is directed and controlled. So how do you run your organisation? Now, it might seem obvious if you're just on your own and you do everything. But you still got to, there's still procedures you've got to do. So I presume most people here would be a 1931 Act company. Would that be fair to say? Right, okay, so you've got to have 2 directors to start with. And that might be someone who's not necessarily involved in the business. But you've still got to hold your meetings, directors' meetings. You've got to keep minutes. And as you grow, those minutes are more and more important. And we'll talk more about the minutes as we go on. You need to know your articles of association. That's how your company is organised. So that's the everyone here is 1931 Act company, so you've all got your articles of association. They're all going to be fairly similar, but you still need to know them because there can be specific details unique to your company. So in general, you've got to have 2 directors, but the articles might mention that there's a minimum of 3 or there's a maximum that you can have. They'll talk about the membership rules. So that's who owns the company, which again, I would imagine everyone here, most people here, it'll be yourselves that own the company. With you being part of a larger organisation and someone else does, and then that's really important from your perspective to get the governance right, and make sure that meetings are held when they need to be, and the regulations within the articles are done. The temptation when you've got a small organisation like we have here is to forget about the minutes and forget about the meetings and think, oh, that's not important. But as you grow, you need evidence that you've been running the company properly, and we'll talk more about that later on in the presentation. So you keep your minutes, keep your accounts up to date, which is absolutely crucial. Now, quite often these are the things that you're a small business, you're interested in your sales, you're enthusiastic about what difference you want to make to society and your organisation, but the accounts are so important and you can't neglect them. So you do keep them up to date, always keep an eye on them, probably monthly, more often if you can. Something that a lot of people might forget is to issue share certificates. So you think, right, well, I own the business, I've run it, why do I need my own shares? But everyone with 1931 Act companies has shares. So you're a shareholder, you issue your share certificate, and complete returns on time. There's late filing fees for everything at government, so it's a way of avoiding unnecessary costs. You might think that the annual return, for example, is something you can do later, and you're carrying on with your sales and you're dealing with clients. But if you leave your annual return, then the fees can build up quite quickly for not filing them. So getting that right from the start just saves you a lot, can save you an awful lot of money. Depending on the area that you're working within, make sure your regulations are all up to date and you're complying with them. That'll be especially important, obviously, for DOLA, but likewise for for some of the other companies that we've mentioned here, and of course the vets as well. It's there's so much to comply with, and coupled with that then is the insurance. So make sure you're fully insured. Understand your insurance policy and what you're covered for and what you're not. And if there's any concerns and there's a gap that you think you need to cover, speak to an insurance agent. And the final thing I want to mention on this slide is your purpose and mission statement. So has anyone defined their purpose? Excellent. It's well worth having a good think about what you're doing the business for. So when you think before you even started, you had these great ideas of what you wanted to do from your business, what you wanted to get out of it. It's well worth defining your purpose. This is something I'm going to come back to time and again. If I did a post on LinkedIn the other day about FIFA and its purpose. So you think FIFA is to promote the game, promote global football, make it available for everyone, and have the best football competition, the World Cup, every 4 years. And instead, we've seen FIFA with a World Peace Prize. The World Cup in America is just tickets are massively expensive. Fans are struggling to get to them. You're thinking, if FIFA go back to their purpose, they'll realise that they're drifting away from what they should be doing. We saw that with Sepp Blatter. They've had a reset with him, but still FIFA are miles away from what they should be doing. And since we're talking about the World Cup, thanks for everyone for coming here instead of watching the opening, which is really appreciated. It seems shouldn't really be talking about where it's gone wrong when you guys have all just started up and you're enthusiastic. But what I want to look at here is where it goes wrong for other people. And I'm quite confident everyone in this room will be successful because you're listening to me. I'm not too sure where this figure came from, but I was just when I was putting the slides together, I had a look at on the internet, and an awful lot of websites were saying 9 out of 10 businesses fail. I'm not convinced by that, but these are some of the reasons why. So 37% of founders struggle with anxiety, and I have to say I thought it might have been higher than that. I meant to say at the start, does anyone here, have you ever struggled with anxiety or your mental health at all?
Yeah, of course.
Right.
But if what's the prior amongst the population? Like, that's meaningless without the prior of knowing.
I'll get to another statistic on that later, but the population is struggling with mental health and well-being. Later on in the presentation, I'm going to talk about the island and how we're struggling and the cost to society. It's massive. So, like I say, I thought it would have been higher than 37%. I've certainly struggled with my anxiety with my company, and I'd be surprised if many people hadn't. So, what we've also got is our identity and livelihoods are rather tied in with our business. We've put everything into doing our business, setting it up, getting it running, getting it going, and we will feel that we're judged by other people. And if our business fails, then we think we've failed. So that adds an extra pressure, and that might often stop us from talking about any issues that we have, because people say, "Oh, well, you shouldn't have gone into business then. That's your own fault." Again, there's a big stigma about mental health, and there's a blame. And so people might well blame us just for struggling when we're the ones creating the wealth on the island. So as the stress and pressures build up, unfortunately, there's all too many founders that burn out and lose heart, because it is tough. And you have those late evenings. I'm sure everyone's faced them, the late evenings you've spent so long working on your business, and you think, where am I going with all of this? So unfortunately, burnout is one of the big reasons why businesses fail. And just at the bottom there, we've got giving up too early. You're knackered, you're fed up, you feel you're going nowhere, you've got all of the issues building up, and then you just give up. You think, right, why do I need to do all of this? So then you go into something else. So there's some of the reasons why it goes wrong. And as I say, hopefully you can pick up the skills from here to deal with those. So you've got your business and everything's running, but as pressures start to mount, it's really useful to take a step back. Now, we've already talked about you being, you're running the businesses yourself. So, but it's really important if you say take a morning out, maybe just go in a different room or go to get a coffee, and just think about the business and the organisation and what you're facing. And if you've got any problems, really important to acknowledge them, not ignore them, and think, right, okay, well, these are the problems we've got, or these are the problems I've got. This is how I'm going to deal with it. This is what's facing us. So when you've got all these problems, it's really helpful to remind yourself of your purpose, why you set out, because that gives you the extra boost. And you think, right, yeah, that's right. This is what I wanted to achieve. I can overcome these hurdles, and then I can achieve my goal. So then review your decisions. Look at your decisions that you've made. Are they working? Is there anything that I could have done better? Be really honest with yourself, and then think, right, okay, well, what can I do different? Do I need to go back on some of those decisions and change them? Look at the options that I've got. So, for example, if we're looking at doing a website for a TCSP, TCSP gives you lots of pressure, and you're struggling to match their demands. They may then demand a rebate and reduce fees. You can look at that in maybe a month's time and think, right, okay, where did we go wrong here? Why did we need to give them a reduction? Could there been other things that we could have done? So when you're reviewing everything, your budgets are really important. So again, this is something that as founders we tend not to like to do. So you set a budget at the start of the year and then you monitor it. It's quite easy to just think, right, okay, in my head, this is what I want to do. I'll not bother writing any of it down, and we'll just go and do it. But then how do you know you're keeping on track? So if you keep a budget, if you fall away from the budget, monitor it. And if you start to improve on the budget, that shows that things are going well, and then you know what you can carry on building on. Exactly the same with the business plan. So you've got your business plan together. Hopefully everyone here has done their business plan. I won't ask. But then that'll give you the ideas of how you're going to progress over the next, say, 3, 6, 12 months and beyond. And then you'd think, right, okay, am I matching that? Am I doing what I wanted to achieve? Am I meeting my purpose? And hopefully when you've done all of this, hopefully it'll be an hour or two, or maybe 3 hours well spent, and you can think, right, okay, now I'm enthused to carry on with my work and tackle all of these issues that I've faced, as opposed to it just building up and you're not knowing where to go. And the other thing I'd say is for a larger organisation, we have board meetings. So hopefully the directors, when they have their meetings, they talk about it. For directors, it can be really useful if they have their meeting outside of the workplace. So you've got no distractions whatsoever. So you can look at all of the issues and then go through them and deal with them openly and honestly. Taking a step back at home can be very difficult for us when we look at what we're doing. We can think that, right, okay, I just need to spend an extra few hours at work, get this job done, and then the business will be fine, and I can get back on track. So you start eating into your evenings and your weekends, and then before you know it, you're just under so much stress, and all you're doing is work. So it's really important to identify your stress and anxiety when you're working late, and if you're not getting anywhere, take a step back and think, right, okay, let's have a cup of tea, let's have a think. Have someone to confide in. Again, this is really difficult as small business owners, because if you're in an organisation, you've got other people that you can talk to. Hopefully you've got other people that you can talk to, and if you're struggling, you say, right, okay, what can I do? As an individual working on your own, you've not got anyone to bounce ideas off. So it can be really difficult. So maybe if you've got a partner, if you've got some friends that you think, right, okay, I can have a quiet conversation with this guy and he'll really help me. So always have someone you can talk to, and that's not necessarily just about the business either. So you can say, right, Luke, I've found here I'm just buying takeaways constantly. Any thoughts of what I can do? And that person then may be able to sort of give you some ideas. The other thing that we can do, of course, is look at our peers. So everyone here is in the same boat where we've all got our own businesses, and why not link up with other businesses and think, right, okay, we can just swap ideas. We can, when we're feeling rubbish, we can talk to someone else. That way we can get away with the idea that I mentioned earlier about being so tied up in your business you can't say I'm struggling. Because if you're speaking with all your peers who are struggling as well, then you'll value their opinion without feeling that you're letting yourself down. Ensure that you're sleeping properly. Sleep can be one of the first things that go, because you might be working late, you might be getting up early, but also you might have disturbed sleep because things are playing on your mind. Quite often it's so easy to just ignore lack of sleep, and you just think, oh, it's just one of those things that happens, and I'll be fine in a week or two's time. But all of these are signs of stress that you might not necessarily be noticing. Learn to identify when you're struggling, and that's the really hard bit. And again, if you've got someone to talk to, they may be able to say, I've noticed you are struggling, and I'll talk more about this on the next slide. And time away from work is really crucial as well. Now, I'm quite guilty of this myself, but whenever I take a week off, I then realise how much I've needed that break from work, because the temptation is just to do your work constantly and not have a break and think, right, I need to grow the business, I need to work on the business. But having a break and just a total refresh can work wonders. Again, I'll talk later about the mental health effects of constantly working. There is support. I just wanted to talk about some business support here. Hopefully you're all aware of the Department of Enterprise's schemes for support. They've got dozens of them. They're very good, but they can be quite tricky to sort of access. However, it is well worth it. The startup schemes, so I think someone said that they've just started up recently with another business. There's startup schemes that will help you buy equipment and get you started with, and they'll talk about business as well. So much as we do here, they'll talk about governance. They'll talk about your filing requirements, directors' duties, VAT, and if you haven't had any experience in that, it's well worth going on those courses. And free money is good. No, never knock it. So back to recognising stress and anxiety. Right, I'm glad that we can actually see what I've put here. I mean, this is pretty much in a circle because you can start anywhere and you can just work your way around. If I look at here at the bottom on procrastination, we might then think, oh no, I'm just being lazy, I can't be bothered doing that task. I'll put that off because I've got more interesting work to do. But that can actually be a sign that you're struggling. No longer enjoying activities. So if you find that in the evenings you used to enjoy, I don't know, going out play football, having a beer with your mates, whatever it might be, suddenly those activities are no longer giving you enjoyment that they used to do. You can find you're losing your appetite and or you're eating too much. You might think, right, okay, I've had a bad day, busy day. I can't be bothered cooking. I'll just grab a sandwich or something, and you can lose your appetite. So again, that's another warning sign. I've mentioned already about working late and at the weekends. Becoming irritable and snappy, especially if it's not in your nature. You might find that your patience is wearing thin just over small things that wouldn't normally have affected you. Nervous or fearful thoughts is quite an interesting one, because I think from our point of view as working on our own, it's quite natural to be nervous about the future, to have thoughts about, oh no, is the business going to work? Am I doing anything right? So you've got to bear in mind those natural thoughts with them taking over, and then suddenly playing over in your mind over and again, and then they're stopping you from relaxing, they're stopping you enjoying your appetite, losing your appetite and enjoying your activities. So really important to try and be aware of all of these triggers for stress and the signs, because stress creeps up on you and you don't necessarily notice it. That again, as I said earlier, that again is really why it's helpful to have someone else that you can talk to, because they may recognise the signs that you don't. So, other action that you can take. So if you find that you're starting to struggle with your work, make sure you take proper breaks. During the day, go for a walk, have a coffee break, spend 10 minutes away from your desk and just forgetting about the work, trying to recharge yourself. So when you come back to the desk, you're more refreshed. And a task that you might be struggling with, if you've taken a break, the answer might just come to you. Always recommend going for a walk during lunchtime. The temptation is that, we've got so much on here, let's just have a sandwich, work at my computer, and then I'll get the work done and then I can get on to the next stuff. But if you take an hour away and you give yourself that time, you get fresh air, clear your head, then you can come back refreshed, and it's amazing how much more efficient you'll work after you've taken that break. Because quite often, if you just carry on working, your productivity drops. Vary your tasks. So if you are struggling with procrastination, do a different task. Think, right, okay, I'm struggling with that. Let's get this done. I'll do a bit more of the job that I'm struggling with afterwards. Give yourself targets and stick to them. It's another way of thinking, right, okay, I've got to do this difficult task, which might be filing your annual return, for example. Right, I've just got to sit down and do it. I'll give myself till the afternoon to get it all finished, and then make sure that you stick to your target. Again, remember your purpose. So when you're struggling and you've got all of this stress going on, just think again, why am I doing it? It is so important as a motivating factor, and it's like I say, it's why we're all here, why you're in business. Exercise regularly is really difficult. You're knackered at the end of a day's work. The last thing you want is to go to the gym or whatever it might be. And you think, oh no, I'm too tired. I'll leave that till tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes and exactly the same thing happens. And suddenly you're finding that you're not getting enough exercise. Exercise really does rejuvenate you. It'll help you sleep. It'll help with your appetite. Sorry, that was on the other slide. It'll help with your appetite, and it will help with your mentality as well. So that is just so important. As is eating healthily, far better off having a bowl of fruit and eating from there than a bowl of chocolates. Much as the chocolates are a big temptation, but it really does make a difference. And something that's often forgotten, and as a governance professional, I find this incredibly important, is to be proud of your achievements and work on your failures, but be really proud of what you've done. You think, right, I did a great job for that client. Okay, he might have moaned, he might have wanted the fees reduced, but I know that I did the very best that I could for him, and reward yourself and think, yeah. And when you put it in your publicity, remember to talk about your successes. It can be, we don't often like talking about how well we do things, but it's really important, and it gives you a boost, and then you let other people know that you're succeeding. So really important, and it's something we're not very good at on the island or in the UK in general. So everything's going well. Your business is thriving, and then you want to think, right, time to expand. So, questions you need to ask yourself is when. So the timing will be really crucial. We saw a lot of people during COVID who'd just gone into business or expanded, and it was just a disaster for them. That was nothing that they could do. It's just really unfortunate. But where you are in control and you can think, right, okay, this is the environment, is now the right time to be expanding. You look at what you're doing and you're thinking, right, okay, got lots of business in here, I need more people. So consider the timing and then work it from there. So once you've got your time, and how, as when you started business, design a business strategy, think, right, okay, how am I going to cost this? What do I want from the new person coming in? We were chatting before and someone was saying that they'd like a new person to bring in new business, which is a brilliant opportunity for you, help you expand them really quickly. Make sure you do a business plan. You're far more likely to succeed when you've got an idea of what you want to do. You've done your marketing, you've done your research, and then you've got your plan, and then you can work with that and vary it as you go and make sure it's working. Obtain advice. So we were talking earlier about Department of Enterprise. Make use of it. They've got plenty of schemes for it if you're expanding. They've got lots of business schemes that will just give you, free advice. So make the most of it. When you're expanding, I would highly recommend training and management skills, because we go from we've got our project, this is what we're really keen on, but we might not necessarily have done the training and management. We might not necessarily have the people skills that we need to bring other people into the business. So really do consider management skills. And we mentioned right at the very start about contracting out. Hire an accountant if you need to, because when you're working with your business, it's so easy to think, right, well, I know how to do the accounts, I can do that. But the time that you're spending on the accounts could probably be better spent bringing more income into the business. So you think, right, I'm going to bring the business in, and I'll pay for an accountant. I'll contract out that accountancy work, let the accountant do it, and then I can focus on what my skills really are. Again, you'd be putting that in the business strategy and thinking, right, okay, well, how do I fit it all together? So do consider using experts. As your business grows, you've got to let go. You've gone from being in control maybe for a year, maybe 2, and then suddenly you're bringing more people in, and that means that you're not in control of everything anymore. You're reliant on other people, and you've got to let go. You've got to let them do the job. So don't micromanage them. Let them carry on, because the temptation is, I've done everything. Everything needs to be done my way, and there's no way you're going to get an employee who's going to do everything exactly the same as you. So leave them to do the job. Empower employees to make decisions. All of this I'm talking about here will help with the employees' mental health and well-being, which we'll come on to next. Let consultants do the job. So if you hired an accountant, let the accountant do it. Don't be on their phone to them constantly. Just think, right, okay, he's doing that job or she's doing that job for me. I've got queries at the end when I get the updated accounts, but let them do it. As you've got staff, you need to recognise the employee problems. Now, it's actually slightly easier to recognise the employee problems than it is to recognise your own problems. And it's going to be exactly the same as what we've just been talking about, but you're recognising it in others. Now, we talked about at the very start, 39% of founders struggling with anxiety. Employees in startups, is over half of employees struggle. And employees, again, struggle with burnout far more often than founders. One of the reasons for that is one of the actual stress levels as well, because you're in control. You're so focused on your business, it's almost part of you, whereas it's not for an employee. So they can be working really hard. They've got no power or control, and they're reliant on you a lot more. So burnout is actually a lot higher for your staff. So that's something to really bear in mind. So introduce wellbeing in the workplace. Really important to look after your staff. We'll talk about this later as well. I've actually got a case study which I'll talk about, which is quite horrific. And never ignore problems. It's all too easy to think, right, okay, well, that guy's struggling. I want him to come to work, forget about his problems and do it. Problems will pile up, and then they'll end up sick, and it'll cost you a lot more if your employees start going sick. So if you get it right at the start, when you're starting to expand and you build all of this within your business plan, it will save you an awful lot of money. And as we're expanding, I just want to remember governance. So this is largely exactly the same slide as we had earlier on. Just remember all of your governance. The addition here is considering your structure. So everyone here, I think, is on a totally flat structure. Either you're working on your own or you're working with one other person, and you know exactly what you're doing. As the business grows, you've got more and more employees, the structure changes. So you need to consider how you're going to structure it, especially if you're thinking, instead of just growing organically, maybe 1 or 2 members of staff at a time, if you're going to increase by, say, 10 members, then that really will affect your structure. So have a good think about how you want your structure, your company. You've got employee regulations as well now, so that's something else that you really need to consider. We talk about contracting out. I would highly recommend contracting out the HR function. it is managing employees is so difficult, and it can be so time consuming. If you use a HR professional, you can just hand everything over to them. You still got to look after your employees, of course, but they do all the work for you. And yeah.
Do you know, is there, because obviously there's Deal and there's Remote.com and these type of companies. Is there any company on the Isle of Man that does that, that provides that kind of service?
Yeah, there's quite a number of them. I probably shouldn't say this, but I've got a friend who does HR, and she is very good. I'll mention Zeal, and I would highly recommend using her.
That's where you pay them a flat fee and
You-
they actually employ the employee.
You,
and
oh
onboard
no,
them.
no. So you in general, you'd be an employee. You'd employ them. Now this is really important from a tax perspective because there's been quite a lot of case law recently about who's an employee and who isn't. Now, if they're working for you and they can't do any other jobs, sorry, you've got to bear in mind, I'm not an employee expert, but if they're working for you and you can't, they can't do any other work and they're committed to their time with you, it's almost certain that the tax office will say, no, they're an employee of you and you have to pay for their tax and
It's not like if you use it, I don't want to derail the conversation, but like if you use a company like that, for example, if I want to hire somebody in Ireland through remote.com,
right.
I pay them a certain amount of money plus I pay a percentage on top, and they have a company that employs that person and they pay the employers
Right, yeah.
national insurance and they pay all the taxes and pensions and all that kind of stuff.
They act as an umbrella.
Yeah. I mean that's certainly one way of going about it. And as you're putting your business plan together, then that could be one of the considerations.
From you though that it's not a common way of hiring people on the island.
Not on the island, it isn't. And I would strongly recommend before you do that you get full advice because the tax implications could be huge. So yeah, speak to a tax advisor, possibly an employment lawyer as well, or no, Zeal from HR, for example, who I've just mentioned there. There's lots of other HR companies on the island. They'll tell you what the legislation is as to whether you can do that or not. That brings about all sorts of other problems as well. So you're thinking, right, okay, this person's working for me remotely. How do I make sure that they're okay? And are they doing the work? And are they getting on with things as they're supposed to? How are they feeling? And because you haven't got the day-to-day sort of interaction, so it brings its own problems as well. But I mean, it might be a solution that works for you, but you do need to consider all of the other factors. And you're thinking, right, okay, well, they're working for me, so how do I look after them? And that would then be done through your agent, which, from what you're suggesting there, then it'd be sort of hands off, really, wouldn't it? So.
Yeah, it's just that, if you're really small and you're just starting out and you're employing somebody and God knows they could be a psychopath or whatever, or, just mental.
Absolutely. That's one of the real problems when you're employing, because it comes back to what
They're not 1 in 100. They're
no.
100% of the employees.
That's right, absolutely. And it's so crucial when you're a small organization and you're bringing new people in. It's absolutely vital that you get the right person, because if they're not the right person, if they're not going to do their job, then they can destroy your business. So it's a question of doing your due diligence properly. If you wanted to use employment agents to to help you find the right staff, but it's that then goes down to your company policies as well. You think, right, have I got my right company policies? Have I got me disciplinary procedures? Are they watertight? So if this person isn't doing a job, I'll give them a warning. But it takes a while as well, because if they're not doing a job properly, unless it's gross misconduct, then you've got to go through the procedures. And if you don't go through the procedures properly, then potentially you can be sued. So it's as you're expanding, the risk. Now, I haven't talked about risk here, and now that I've mentioned it, it was one of the things I wanted to put on the slides. But the risk is huge. So it's really important you get it right, and you're expanding. So get your procedures beforehand and make sure you follow them. So so if your employee turns out not to work out, then you can quickly spot that and deal with it. Again, this comes back to not ignoring the problems, because the changes that they did in the UK were watered back, so they don't have employment rights from day one. We were never going to go that far, so you've still got some time on probation to think, right, okay, this person isn't working out, and then you let them go. And because it's so key, then you make sure that you get that decision right. And if it's not working, don't think, right, okay, well, I'll wait to the end of the probation period before I make a decision, and then put it off again. You know, make your decisions based on what's right for you and the company. And of course, don't abuse the other person either by it. But no, we're talking about where employees go wrong, and that is really, really important. Yeah, so that would certainly help with your regulations, but otherwise, if you're just hiring someone in a normal way, well, as I've just mentioned there, we'll make sure that we've got our staff manual, we've got the disciplinary measures, and use a HR consultant. If you outsource all of that work, you can concentrate on what you need to, and then the HR person has got to get it right. As you're expanding, you might want to consider your mission statement and your purpose if it's required. Hopefully, your purpose won't change. You've still got your goal in mind, but maybe your mission needs to change slightly. And maybe your business has taken a turn in a different direction. So do consider your mission and your purpose. I just wanted to talk briefly about financing expansion. So we talked about letting go when you're getting a new employee. There's various different ways of financing it. So it can be self-funding. You've left the profits in the business, so you're just going to fund it from on your own. You keep total control. You've got no worries about financing, other than the risk is to yourself, because if things go wrong, then all that investment's gone. But that's one safe way of doing it. Bank lending. So you think, right, okay, well, I'll get a loan. The bank might want to secure that on some of your assets, but no, bank lending could be an efficient way of expanding. These three other options are all about giving away equity in one form or another. So you might want to consider an investment angel. So think, right, okay, I've got my business, I've got my plan, it's going really well. If I speak to an investment agency, they may be able to suddenly help rocket my sales. So you think, right, okay, but that'll cost you through equity. So really consider that. And the cost of finance is probably going to be less than the banking, but you're giving away some of your business. Again, you could do the same through selling some of your shares. So we talked about share certificates earlier on, and this is where it's really important. So if you bring an investment agent and you're selling your shares, it's really important that you've got your books and your minutes right from the outset, because someone invested in your company will want to see all of that. They want to know that you've run your organization well. So if you're selling shares, then yeah, you'll need to open your books. You are letting go of some of your business. So
you've mentioned keeping minutes twice during this talk.
yeah.
So and also a lot of people are using the 1930 whatever.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
In which case, if you're a sole director, it's just your one-person company, you'll have a partner like that group down at the harbour there, back to Tilly or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, when you set up with them, you'll have like an initial minutes, and maybe they'll do something once a year or something. But if you're not in a situation where you've got other directors, like business partners, that's kind of reduces that, or is there something?
No. See, that's one of the mistakes that a lot of people think. Right, think about. And right, okay. So I've done. I've got my incorporation. I've got the initial minutes, and all my decisions. Well, they're not that important to write down. So you carry on. You might be entering into a contract. You might be using insurers. it's really important to demonstrate that those decisions have been approved by the company. So if someone argues that that's not a proper contract, where's it minuted, you might be really struggling. And it might be the same with contracts as well that you've had just with one of your clients. So you think you've got a big contract there, they want to get out of the contract and say, well, you haven't authorised it properly, it's not been a decision of the directors. So it's really important, even though you're on your own, that you minute your decisions.
Is that question just like recording it in a document somewhere?
Yeah,
on
yeah,
your own system?
absolutely, yeah. So there's...
Do you need to, because Backer Tilly, they charge to use that rubber stamp.
Yeah.
Do you have to get a document from them each time?
No. Oh, no. No, so for your minutes, they are a formal document, they're a formal record, but you can do them yourself. There's plenty of resources online to see how you can write minutes. If you go to Baker Tilly, or if you go to an accountant, or if you use me, I'll be charging. So you want to cut out all of that. So do your minutes yourself, if you can. If, again, it comes back to the cost-benefit analysis. If you're finding it's going to take you ages to do a set of minutes, no, it might be worth you getting someone to do it for you. Yeah.
Keep a journal.
Yeah. So, yeah. Well, I mean, for my minutes, I've got a minute file, just a document on my computer here, and I do my minutes. So say I'm approving a dividend to myself. I'm approving a dividend to the shareholders. I'll minute that, and then I'll save that on the minute file, and then each minute's consecutive. But that's evidence. So if I come to sell the business in 2-3 years' time, I've got a complete record of all of my transactions, and it's been approved by the directors. And that can make a huge difference for an investment angel, because they'll want to know that you're running the business properly. So you can show them that backup, and you can say, for example, if you've got a patent, right? How is that patent really in the company's name? If you've got your minutes and you've got your documents approving it and your directors have signed it, that's all complete, and you can prove that that's in the company's name. If you haven't got your minutes, then it starts to there can be arguments to say, no, that's not part of your assets. And I'm sure people have seen the Dragon's Den where they've argued about patents, which I have to say I get really cross at when I see the Dragon's Den. But yeah, it's really important. So even if you think, right, okay, I'm only on my own, I've got no one here to have a meeting with, you still document it. So it seems bizarre that you're taking a minute of, you're the only person there to in attendance, but really important that you get that done.
Why is it important to spin your wheels doing admin work like that if and when you need it, and if is the key part of that?
Yeah.
You can just go and write it at that point.
Because you're not going to remember it.
No.
But you don't need to remember it. It's like if you need to have minutes that show this, and this, you just write minutes that show that, and that.
There's a couple of problems with that. One is that it's after the event, so it's going to be really hard for you to prove that it was a genuine meeting of the directors.
If someone ever asked you, why did you pay that dividend? You just write a minute that said, I'll pay a dividend, and then it's done.
Yeah, but that's that wouldn't work, I'm afraid, because it's after the event.
Give me the journal of all your minutes. Give me all your minutes. Take that.
Yeah.
And then you go, give me your accounts of all your expenditure. And you go, this expenditure wasn't in the journal. This wasn't in the journal. Yeah. This contract wasn't in the journal. And you go, oh, I'll rewrite it. It's fine. And they go, no, screw you. that's the source.
Yeah, and the point is that the sequence of events is that you have a directors meeting, you approve the transaction, then you write your minutes, and then when you're signing off the transaction, you can show, right, okay, the meeting took place first, then there was a transaction. If you're doing it after the event, maybe 1, 2, 3 years after the event, one, it's going to be a nightmare to do. And two, the lawyers, they'll just say, well, that wasn't a meeting at the time. You've just done that now, and you wouldn't be able to genuinely say, yeah, that was a meeting.
What is the threshold of that where it crosses over from like petty cash to something of significance which has to be recorded in the directors' meeting? Is there a ballpark figure, £1,000?
No, the general rule for me would be if you're approving anything. So if you're signing a document, minute the sign, so you're approving the directors to sign it. But But yes, to think about, okay,
If
I'll,
you're the director and you're signing a contract with a new client and you sign the contract,
what I would suggest in that situation would be that you authorise the directors to sign letters of engagement. So I don't authorise myself to sign every single letter of engagement, but I've had a meeting with the directors where it says, right, okay, Juan's authorised to execute the letters of engagements with new clients. So that's my authority then that I have to do that. If you can do it for each one, great. But as long as you've got your minute there to show that you've been authorised to do it. And this comes back to the point as well of getting it right from the very start. So admin is, I mean, obviously I like governance, but I'm clearly unique in this room, I would suggest. And most people won't like to do the minutes, and it's a boring task and it's something you want to put off. But getting it right from the start and getting into the habit of doing it, it will pay dividends when you come to look at your financing. Sorry.
Can an email trail count as minutes? So if I've got another director,
It would, yeah. It would count as very good evidence. What I would prefer to do is, well, I say I prefer, what I do is a written resolution. So you've got a written resolution, you sign that, send that to your co-director, both sign it off. There's your minute. You can get that on file.
Is there an expected level of integrity on that? Like, for example, you have to use DocuSign or something like that, or can it be just Google Docs?
I don't. If you're signing documents with a third party, they may well insist on it. But for me, it's my documents, it's my minutes. I just I've got me stamp that I just put on it, electronic stamp, and use that. As you expand and as you get more and more people within your organisation, you really will need to think about how you do sign off your minutes. Because what works for me on my own at the moment wouldn't necessarily work for, say, Douglas. As a big organisation to sign off minutes there, because you'll want more security, you want more definitive, yeah, this is what we've done. Especially with an organisation like Douglas, where you're going to have contracts with shipping companies all over the world. So it's really important you keep a written record of all of that. And this is where we talk about getting it right from the start, because as you expand, things get bigger and suddenly you can be swamped and you've not got into the habit of doing it, and then you can get overwhelmed by the paperwork that needs to be done. So getting into the right habits right at the start is really important. So selling shares is a potential option, which obviously you're not traded on the stock market, so you need to make sure you're speaking to the right person. And you typically do that if you wanted to bring another partner on board and you think, right, okay, this person here could add an awful lot to the business. We can join two organisations together. So that might be one of the reasons for considering selling your shares. An employee investment. Do you want to give your employees some say in the company? Do you want to let them buy into it? You're probably not going to raise as much money, if any, but it might be worth considering. As we talked a minute ago, it could be that your new employee is going to be bringing new business in which case it will make sense to give them a share in the company, to give them that added incentive to see the company grow. So these are just some of the financing considerations that you'd need to bear in mind.
What question on that employee investment? So
yep.
You've got a really valuable employee coming into the business. Would you recommend gifting them shares?
I would be very, very cautious about gifting shares. I would also consider for employee investment in particular, issuing a separate shares. So 1931 Act company, you can issue different class of shares. So I would issue a different class of shares for your employees, and I would make it a condition, a shareholder under a shareholder agreement, make it a condition that if they leave the company, they sell it to you. Not first, they sell it to you. They have to sell it to you, and include the price options there. So you're giving them an incentive, but you're protecting yourself because but it's but it's really important. If people value things a lot more if they pay for it. If you want to get employees to part of a share scheme, I would suggest that you make it there's some purchase value there, so you can say, right, they purchase the shares at this price, and then when they come out, if they leave, there's an exit strategy there, and if they keep hold of it, then they get a share of the company. So, but do really consider making them pay for it as well, because you value things a lot more if you pay for it.
It's also implied in what you said a couple of minutes ago about if they left the company that they would have to sell the shares back to you.
Yeah.
So that's to address a concern that if they leave, they could sell the shares to somebody who would either increase their shareholding or undermine your position in the company. Is that something that you can legitimately add as a clause into a contract?
Yes. Yeah. And it's I would say it's vital that you do, because the last thing you want is for an employee to have shares in a company, they leave, and then they can do what they like with them, and they can keep them forever. And then if your company expands, then suddenly you've got this employee with shares in your company, and the value of those shares is increasing. So you don't want an employee who's left to still have shares in your organisation.
You make it a legal requirement that when they leave the company, they have to sell the shares, or can they not do that?
Yeah, well, you're in control. So you're selling or gifting the shares to the employees. So you make the contract. I would certainly recommend that you get an advocate to do it. Don't just draft up the contract yourself, because the last thing you want is for your contract to be challenged and say it's not valid. Get an advocate to do it, but make sure that happens.
In traditional businesses, like say for example, you're running a garage or you're running something that's selling boats or whatever it is, right? Like you will be given a dividend every year typically, but in the tech space for startups or whatever, dividends are extremely rare until a company reaches maturity.
Yes.
So it would be a hard sell for an employee who might stay for 3 years.
It really would, yeah. The tech industry is really, I find it fascinating. So you've got your organization that grows really quickly. The value of the company increases dramatically, but that value is only based on what investors are willing to pay. Now, once investors pay into it, they want to show that the investment's increased more, so that the value of the company can just rocket without the actual underlying business justifying it. So, and I have to say that I'm quite worried about a bubble at the moment where investors are just paying thousands, millions for these companies that aren't necessarily producing profits, and it's all based on future profits. And we saw it with .com. So, but yeah,
some of these companies will winner takes all.
Absolutely, that's right. Yes.
There's only ever going to be a duopoly in any market segment.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of pretend companies.
That's exactly right. And that's exactly what we saw with the .com as well. There was genuine businesses there, like Amazon, that the value's just gone up and up and up, but the majority of them didn't. And it's pick and right one. So, but yeah, that's a sort of, I find it a fascinating sort of little aside. But
Or selling up before it pops.
you could take that risk. Yes. That's
Sell it to a bigger force.
The next biggest to come out. Exit strategy.
Yes. So with that in mind, going back to our well-being at work. So we're now expanding. We've got employees, and we want to make sure that we look after them. So I think if we start up here, it's not a nice to have. It's an absolute essential. Consider your office culture. I'm going to have to rush through these slides. What time have I got? How much have I got left? Right. Okay. If you guys are all happy with me to carry on, I will try and sort of get through a little bit quicker. Consider your office culture. When you're on your own, your office culture is you, and you might work late. You might think, right, well, I don't mind working until 8 o'clock to get this job done, but that's not going to be the same for employees. And if you're working late, your employees might feel obliged to as well. So consider your office culture. Really important to get that right from the very outset. Set it before before things go wrong. As I've said before, empower staff and listen to them. That's really important for their well-being. And design your policies around the staff's needs. So if you've got 3 staff, instead of saying, right, this is a wellbeing policy we're going to do, speak to the staff, think, what would you like? As you grow and as the staff change, your policies will change because they want to benefit the actual staff that you've got. So you might want to consider working at home, flexible hours. I suspect most people in this room could use flexible hours. I guess it'd be really difficult for yourself. So you might be fixed on, depending on your industry, but that is well worth considering. When you look at the benefits, again, it's the benefits for the staff. So don't think, right, okay, I'm going to give everyone a pension, I'm going to give everyone this, that, and the other. Ask the staff what benefits they'd like, because you target your expenses better, and align your culture with your staff values. This, again, it's really important right from the outset. It goes with your office culture. Get that from the outset. When you're employing someone, consider, are they going to fit in with the culture of the office, the culture that you want to build, and be creative. No, there's no end to the benefits that you can consider for your staff to help them. Just carrying on from that, the wellbeing needs will grow as your company grows. So new staff have different needs, as I just mentioned. Consider the external support. So on the island, there's a load of wellbeing that's available. Consider that. It's often changing as well. So just keep an eye on what's available outside of the company. Train mental health first aiders if you grow larger than just yourselves. So someone's there to help with the mental health problems, and consider activities other than just drink. Right. Because we're running short of time, I'll just skip over these slides here. So this is just more of how you look after your staff and what you should be doing when you're doing your wellbeing in the workplace. We've got the code, so that defines why the governance code is, well, it's a document I really like, but I would because I'm a governance professional. But it does set out why the purpose of and the importance of wellbeing in the workplace. We've got the UK employment law, which it's actually more strict in the UK and more onerous than it is on the island, but it's still really important to deal with your wellbeing. Sorry, I've skipped through all of that because we're running short of time, and I wanted to talk about the case study. Oh, good. I was worried when I put this slide together that it might be difficult to read. There was a mother of 2 who was bullied in the workplace. This is an Australian case, and it's a coroner's inquest, so it might be followed up with further action. But unfortunately, she died by suicide due to bullying in the workplace. There was all sorts of failings that we've had in the company that added to the problem. They didn't take us seriously. And I've underlined this because this is, for me, is really important. The behaviour didn't just affect my workplace, it had a big impact at me at home. What we do in the workplace can really affect our employees and how they feel at home. And you can't just leave the business. If you're bullied at the workplace, you will be taken at home, and you might not be able to talk to other people. You might not recognise the problems, or they might get out on top of you. There's plenty of people on the island who hate going to work. Comes 4 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon, they dread going to work. And I've spoken to a lot of people who are in that situation. The last thing you want as you're starting up and you're expanding is for employees to feel like that, and then to ultimately end up dying by suicide. I'm sure no one's going to do that here, but it just emphasises the importance of getting well-being right. And when things go wrong, they can go horribly wrong. I've worked in a workplace where someone's died by suicide, and it's horrific. Being a governance professional, I can't get away from ESG. I have to mention it. Wellbeing is it's an intrinsic part of the S of ESG. It's the social aspect of it. So don't neglect it. Fit it in with the your other policies. So ESG is environment, social, and governance. We've talked a lot about governance. This is all about social, but consider the environmental aspects as well. So you can fit in your wellbeing policies around the environment, because I'm sure everyone here is very conscious of the needs to look after our planet and the business that we do. Are you all okay if we start mentioning some of the problems on the island? If we talk about that, you're all okay for the time?
Sure.
Right. Between 2020 and 2024, 68 members of our society died by suicide. So in a 5-year period, we're talking about more than one a month over 5 years. This is how bad the mental health problem is on the island. It was recently announced that the crisis team received 2,000 calls every month. That was a response to a question in the Keys. And you only ring crisis if you're in crisis. So that shows 2,000 people. It's employees, it's us. We might find that we're struggling. This is why it's really important to look after your mental health and your staff's. And when things go wrong, it's really important to recognise them. Don't let it get to the stage where you're really struggling and you need a crisis team. Mental health services can't cope. 2,000 people a month is just overwhelming for the mental health services on the island. There's a huge, before we come on to the costs, we don't have many statistics on the island, unfortunately, for mental health, but we can see what the situation is elsewhere, and we just know that our situation is much worse. The suicide rate that I just showed on the last slide is way in excess of England's, massively in excess. So we know that when we talk about these figures here, we're worse. Just looking at that middle slide there, 16 to 34-year-olds reporting mental health limits the type of work that they can do. That's important for you if you're going to be employing a younger person. You've got to realise that mental health affects your business. That's why it's really important to look after your staff. If you can look after your staff, they won't get ill. They won't have the limits to their work that others might, and problems that you can recognise and deal with will help your business. Unfortunately, it's the statistics are horrific. It's just you can read that for yourselves, but there's just no getting away from how horrific that is, and that comes with a financial cost. In England, the mental health costs 300 billion in 2022. That's 300 billion pounds lost because of mental health. So some of those costs are from sickness. Presenteeism is a massive cost. It probably costs more than sick leave itself. So that's people coming into work who shouldn't be there, not doing their job properly because they can't. And this is one of the things that I mentioned earlier about taking breaks, so you become more efficient. Staff turnover costs businesses, and there's unemployment costs as well. When we equate these to the island, and I know these ratios are right because they've been used in the Isle of Man suicide strategy. Economic and social costs of the island is 434 million. Business costs is 161 million. That's just on the island. So if we get wellbeing right here, we're not going to be incurring these costs. It's a massive incentive for you to get the well-being right. The converse, of course, is that no, the cost to the island if we don't. So not only will it cost your business, it will cost the island, and that's why we've got the crisis that we have. I can't emphasize enough how important mental health and well-being is from a business perspective as well as from a personal perspective. Right. I'm not going to go through all of these. This is some of the help that's available, and it's well worth looking them up when you get home. If you've got staff, look that up and make it available to your staff. Say this is a support there. They may not be willing to say to you that they're struggling, but at least if you can provide the support, then they can get it themselves elsewhere. And I've got a support group called Manx Pact, Manx People Action and Change Together. It's free, it's not a charity, so I don't want any money, not interested in registering. We've got a wealth of information on our webpage, and I post regularly on Facebook. So by all means, have a look at that, recommend that to your staff, make it available. But I did that because I wanted to give people an opportunity to have someone to talk to while they're waiting for Manx care, because there's huge waiting lists for mental health and well-being, and the budget isn't there. So the failings is, unfortunately, it's horrendous, and it's not the staff. The staff are overworked within Manx care. It's the overall crisis, and if we as businesses can address that, we'll really help Manx care and society. So that is it, I think. I'm glad that you asked questions as we went through. Unfortunately, that's sort of made me overrun on time, but no, really glad. Has anyone got any questions? Anything amongst that presentation there that you'd like to talk about?
I have a question. Do people who work in governance or people who set the rules in governance ever think about the mental health impacts that those rules actually end up having on society in the broader context?
That is a very, very good question. Now
and specifically things like the financial rules.
No, I totally agree.
I'm constantly having to jump through hoops to prove I'm not a financial criminal.
If
so annoying.
If we take the FSA for example, I would love if the FSA considered the well-being of the regulated, the license holders. You might get this yourself. The FSA will fire off emails, say on a Friday afternoon, that you can't answer. You have to wait till Monday, but that's playing over the weekend on your mind, and there's no escaping it. No, if you get a demand saying, right, we want all of this information next week, and we're doing an investigation or whatever it might be, you can't act on a Friday, and yet it ruins your weekend. And the FSA, and I've spoken to the FSA about this, the FSA say, well, no, we wanted to get that email out. That's what they told me. I said, it doesn't matter about your targets. It doesn't matter about what you think you said you were going to do. The person who's receiving that, that's what you should be thinking of. And don't send the email until Monday morning.
They do it before Christmas.
And they do it before Christmas. Absolutely, they do it before. Yes. So the regulator has got a lot to learn, and I've spoken to the regulator. I've tried to say that I'd love to do wellbeing in your workplace, so you can think about how you treat your license holders. A different example would be the council. The council have tenants, and how they send their information to the tenants affects the tenant's life. And they can do that on a Friday afternoon again, or they can do it sometime, and they don't realise the effects that they're having on the individuals. I've seen a horrendous example where, unfortunately, someone died by suicide, and it was because of the way that the council spoke to her. I've seen the letter, and if I was, I've had my struggles, as you can probably imagine, and it would have been enough to push me over the edge. So I can recognise that letter was incredibly unhelpful, and regulators really do need to learn that. I've spoken to my governing body, the Chartered Governance Institute, and I said I'd love to help with well-being and work with you on policies and just well-being throughout the Chartered Governance Institute. Unfortunately, they weren't interested. So it's a real problem. It's endemic, and no, this is why we've got so many costs. People don't think, and no,
There's no correlation between activity and results when it comes to business or when it comes to government stuff. You know, it's not like they go with the government. Well, I suppose have we increased our tax take?
Yeah,
Is a recurrent thing.
yeah, absolutely.
But you know,
I'm helping a small charity, and they were filing their returns with the AG, and then suddenly they got a letter at the beginning of this year saying that the 5 years of accounts for the previous, obviously 5 years, were incorrect. Can you redo them? They'd had all those accounts. There was no flexibility there. There was no, right, okay, well, that's our error. We shouldn't have accepted them in the first place. We'll accept them now and going forwards. Can you do them in this format? They were insistent that they had to redo a small charity, and that's not a one-off. Because government, it's a decision for a government to think, right, okay, well, let's just enforce this policy, as opposed to the effect that it has on the people who are receiving it. And I always say to people, especially in government, think about the recipient. How is the recipient going to handle what you've just sent? And the classic case is the FSA on a Friday afternoon. It's appalling.
In Ireland, man, you can generally actually speak to a person, not like
Yeah.
HMRC in the UK. Which
I agree. Yes.
you speak to in Welsh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Speak
Yeah. There is, at least we can speak to someone. But again, if they send it on a Friday afternoon, you can't speak to them until Monday, and then that's playing on your mind. Just out of interest, have you had the FSA do that to you?
Me?
No.
Some companies we've had that sort of interaction.
Yeah. It's just so it's unnecessary. You know, if the government made a mistake, they don't pay for it, but they make you make the changes.
No one gets fired.
And no one gets fired. No one's held to account. No. So
In a small charity, your experience is very familiar to you.
it is, yeah. So yeah, I've helped various charities, and it's consistent. It's not just the one that I've just mentioned. It's appalling. Yeah, and it is one of the problems as you grow. Then you do have to deal with more regulations, and dealing with the FSA is a real stressor for you. So I didn't mention it in the presentation, but no, thanks for bringing it up, because it is something that adds to pressure, and it's one of those tasks that you can procrastinate about. You think, oh no, it's the FSA. I don't want to can't deal with that. Let's get on with this other work, and then you can put it behind. But unfortunately, you can't ignore the regulator. You can't avoid the taxman. So yeah, you've just got to do it.
No, it's not even the direct contacts either. It's the indirect stuff.
I know.
They make a rule, and now every single bank or financial institution or pension fund or whatever has to do a certain thing.
Yeah.
They have to demand evidence from their customers about this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
And now they're sending out these emails that say, "Oh, we're going to threaten you with like locking your account up or doing this, that, and the other, unless you comply with these evidence provision rules." You're jumping through all these hoops for somebody else's benefit.
Well, that's right.
Because they're externalising their cost on it and putting it on the customers instead.
Yeah. One of the worst things that they do is, so you've got an annual return. You'll be well aware of an annual return that you have to complete. Thanks very much now. Okay, bye now. So you'll be aware there's an annual compliance return that you have to do with the FSA, and there's an awful lot of information you have to do there. Every year they'll change what you have to put on that form. So you can have the systems in place, so you're ready to answer it. No, you've done all your governance, you've got everything in place, you're ready to answer that, and then suddenly they change the questions, and you don't have the answers to that question because it's part of the system you haven't built yet. So then you have to go and manually find the information. It takes you forever.
This is why they are so dynamic.
Yeah.
That's what they say. We're building dynamic systems.
Yes. So, yeah. Sorry, any other question? Any questions about your own mental health and how you can look after yourself and how you can cope with your business?
Will you be willing to share those?
Oh, I'm quite happy to share the slides with anyone. How would I do that? Do I give it to you, or do you want to just?
Yeah, so then I
Right.
email
Yeah.
for the
Yeah. No, I'm quite happy to. And the
I
other,
think there's a good startup idea that someone should bring up in your startup weekend in July for a little app or something that helps people do that compliance and makes it easy.
yeah.
Like you could just talk to it and say,
Yeah.
hey, we've just made a director's decision, blah blah blah, and then it goes to the other director as well. They put their fingerprint on their phone, it's signed and it's ticked in
Yeah.
a minute.
Yeah.
No Word documents, no fannying around.
Copyright it down.
Done. That's a startup idea right there. Let's find some people to build it.
Right. Well, good luck. I'm glad that we've got a business opportunity from the presentation, so that's good.
Thank you, Jim.
That's quite all right.
Well done, Julie.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.